How to run effective meetings in the office. I'm Chris, this is the Office Survival Guide, where I do videos not just to help you survive the office week, but give you the skills you need to crush it. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 13 tips to help you run effective meetings. And if you've worked in an office for a while, you'll know that one of the most annoying things about working in an office is attending meetings that are run poorly and are ineffective. So if you're organizing meetings and you follow these 13 tips, your meetings are actually going to be a really good use of people's time. You're going to accomplish a lot, and I would venture to say that people will actually enjoy attending your meetings because your meetings will be so much better than everybody else's meeting. Tip number one for running effective meetings is to start on time. This is number one because it is the most important. Effective meetings start on time. Well, what do I mean by on time? I mean, if your meeting is scheduled from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., your meeting starts exactly at 1 p.m. I don't mean 1:05 p.m. I don't mean 1:10 p.m. because you're waiting for people to show up. I mean the meeting starts exactly at 1 p.m. Now, if you're the meeting organizer, that means you likely have to get there early. You have to get there early to set up the phone, the computers, the video teleconference, anything that needs to get set up. You're there to have that all up and running so that when 1 o'clock starts, the meeting starts. Now, you might say, but Chris, people at my office, they always come late. What do? They come late because they've learned all meetings start late or meetings will wait for them. Don't let people think that about your meeting. If people know your meeting starts on time, they will start to come to your meeting on time. And the reason why you want to start it on time, you want to be respectful of other people's time. If you have 10 people in your meeting and 8 people are there, but you're waiting for 2 more people to show up for 10 minutes, that is a lot of money and time for those other 8 people just to be sitting around and doing nothing. So start on time. Tip number 2, end on time. All effective meetings start on time and end on time. Why is it important to end on time? It's important in a meeting that people know there's a bounded amount of time to have this discussion. If they know the meeting could go on forever, it likely will go on forever. So it makes things more effective when there's a limited amount of time. And now think about this yourself. If you hate meetings that start late, what do you hate even more? You hate even more meetings that run long. If that schedule was 1 to 2 p.m. for the meeting, you've been in those meetings where 2 rolls around, you're like, this is not going to end, it's 2:15, it's 2:30, you're like, when does this meeting end? So make sure your effective meeting starts on time and ends on time. Tip number 3, have a clear objective and make sure that objective is communicated to people. You've been in meetings, I guarantee it, that you have no idea why you're there, you have no idea why anybody's there, you have no idea why this meeting even exists. So if you're the meeting organizer and facilitator, make sure the objective is clear and people know it. If you send out a meeting invite, put the objective in there. If you send out an email with some documents ahead of time, put the objective in there. And then when you start the meeting at 1 o'clock, the first thing you say is what the objective is. You say something like, the reason we are here is to make a decision, to review the budget, to provide feedback on a document, whatever that is, state that objective at the beginning of the meeting so that everybody knows why they're there. Tip number 4, have an agenda and stay on it. What do I mean by an agenda? An agenda is a list of things you're going to talk about at a meeting, who is going to talk about them, and how long they're going to be talked about. If you've been preparing agendas for your meetings, but it's simply just a list of topics and it doesn't have times, that is not an agenda. It is really important that you have times in the agenda so that people know within the bounds of this hour, or however long your meeting is scheduled for, how much time is allocated to each discussion, because you'll never be able to end on time if there are not times dedicated to each particular section. Now, by the way, as the meeting facilitator or organizer, your job then is to keep the meeting on agenda. If you find people are taking too long, your job is to say, hey, this topic is over, we need to move on to the next one. You won't be rude if you're doing that. That is literally what your job is when you're running the meeting. Now, when you're making the agenda, I would consider 5 minutes to be about the smallest block of useful time in a meeting. When you're organizing the entire meeting, though, the meeting does not have to be 30 minutes or 1 hour, which are often the defaults in Outlook to send out invites, but consider making the meeting shorter, considering the making meeting 45 minutes, consider a 15-minute meeting. One of my favorites is actually to schedule 45-minute meetings to give people some 15-minute in-between time to actually get to their next meeting in the organization. Tip number 5, if you're having a hard time getting people to stay on time, consider using some kind of timer for the different sections of the agenda. You could use a digital timer, you could use a clock in the room. My favorite thing to use for keeping time in large meetings with lots of attendees where people are sitting around a conference table is a sand timer. You can get sand timers in increments of 5, 10, 15 minutes, and when you have an agenda topic, flip over that sand timer. Everybody at the table can see exactly how much time is available. And in addition to having a timer, you can consider assigning somebody in the meeting to actually be the timekeeper. And then your job is to run the meeting, but their job is to actually keep time, and their job will then be to let people know when they're out of time. But it's also good when you're keeping time, not just to tell people when their time's over, but to tell them when their time is getting close. So if they have 15 minutes and they've got 2 minutes left, then give them a 2-minute warning. Let them know it's about time to wrap it up. Tip number 6, make sure you have the correct attendees for the meeting, that you've thought about when you're scheduling this meeting, who's going to be there, if a decision needs to be made, that the decision makers need to be there, because what you don't want is you don't want 4 people that need to be there to make the decision and only 2 come, because if that's the case, then your meeting will have to be rescheduled to actually make that meeting. So if it's really that important that these 4 people need to be there, then make sure those people are going to be there. And what do I mean by making sure they're going to be there? I don't mean just sending in an invite and hope they come. I mean confirming with them or confirming with their executive assistant or however you confirm in your organization that you're going to have a quorum and all the roles you need for this meeting to actually be functional and effective. The next tip is to keep action items. If you're in a meeting and you're assigning things to be done, well, then record those things. Record who is going to do it and when they're going to do it by. And then review those things in the meeting so that people are actually accountable about the action items that they take on. And when I mentioned recording action items, it's really useful to actually send out those action items in an email afterwards. Sometimes for more formal meetings or big meetings, you actually may want to include meeting minutes where somebody types up all the notes of everything that was discussed. At a minimum, make sure the action items go out in an email if you're not doing full-blown minutes or notes. The next tip is to take one-on-one discussions offline from the meeting. If you're in a meeting and you find that you are having a one-on-one conversation with the werewolf, but there are 8 other people that are there and they're not part of the conversation, then take the conversation with the werewolf offline. Say something like, hey, can we have this conversation after the meeting, or can we schedule another meeting to have this conversation? What you don't want is you don't want a meeting with 10 people in it and 8 people are just sitting there like bumps on logs because they have nothing to do with anything that is being discussed. You can also do this if the conversation isn't with you, but it's with 2 other people in the meeting. You can totally say, hey, the 2 of you should take this conversation offline. And by the way, you might be saying, Chris, why is there a werewolf behind you? Well, it's because I'm shooting this around Halloween. I'm on Balboa Island in Newport Beach, and it's a really popular spot for trick-or-treating and Halloween decorations. You should also consider having some ground rules for your meeting, particularly if your meeting is a series of meetings or a recurring meeting. It's really important to have some rules that all the attendees follow to make the meeting more effective. And what do I mean by ground rules? Some things you might consider for ground rules. The one that I like the most is make sure all your electronics are on silent or on vibrate, and that if people are going to take a phone call, they step outside the meeting. They don't take that phone call in the meeting place. You can make these ground rules kind of fun, where if somebody's phone does ring, and that's a ground rule that everybody knows they adhere to, well, maybe that person then needs to buy donuts for the next meeting. Some other rules you could consider a no electronics rule entirely. If you find people come to your meetings and they're distracted because they're sitting at their laptops on email, you could have a ground rule of no laptops. You could also have a ground rule of just one conversation at a time, not interrupting people. There are a lot of these rules. You'll have to come up with them as part of your group as to what makes sense for you. But as the meeting facilitator and organizer, your job then is to police these rules. If you have it and somebody's phone rings and one of your rules is that they shouldn't, then you need to call them out, and then you need to say, hey, donuts on you next time. Or if your rule is no donuts and somebody's opened up their no donuts. If your rule is no electronics and somebody's opened up their laptop, then you need to say, hey, we agreed, no laptops. Can you please put that away? Thank you very much. Tip number 10, consider a stand-up meeting. What's a stand-up meeting? Well, a stand-up meeting is a meeting where everybody stands up. They don't sit. There's no chairs. Well, there could be chairs, but nobody actually sits in them. If your meetings are running too long and you just want them to be quick, this works really well for like a Monday morning stand-up meeting, 15 minutes to get a team of 10 people together just so they have a common situational awareness about what's going on. You call a Monday morning 9 a.m. stand-up and you say, hey team, we're gonna get together every Monday morning for just 15 minutes. We're gonna go around 1 minute each just to share what's going on. These meetings, I guarantee, will end a lot quicker than meetings where people are sitting down because people are a little less comfortable and they actually want to get out of there. Tip number 11, ensure your attendees are prepared for what they need to bring or what they need to do. Now, I mentioned earlier that it's important to have the correct attendees, and it is, but it's important for those attendees to be prepared. If you're asking people to attend your meeting and to give a presentation, make sure those attendees know that they're giving a presentation. If you're asking people to provide feedback on a document and you want them to have read the document before, make sure that they know that they're to have read that document before. Now you might say, but Chris, I've tried that. I've asked people to read things before and they never do. Well, tip number 12 is to consider some quiet reading time at the beginning of your meeting for people to spend 10, 15 minutes to silently sit in the room, read the document, and then allocate the next portion of time to actually discuss the document. And when I say quiet reading time, that's actually what I mean. I mean, everybody sits there together, they read it quietly, and then when your timer goes off, then everybody discusses it. I find this to be much more effective than asking people to read it before, because asking people to read and review things before in workplaces where people are busy, it's just a challenge, and frankly, people don't do it. It's human nature. But when you dedicate time on their calendars, and you've dedicated time on their calendars because you've scheduled this meeting for an hour, 15 minutes review, and 45 minutes to discuss, they review it and they're super engaged, and it's more effective. Tip number 13, conclude the meeting. I started this by saying all good meetings begin on time and they end on time, but concluding the meeting is not just simply ending at 2, if that's when the meeting is scheduled to. Concluding the meeting is actually allocating a portion of time on your agenda to conclude the meeting. 5 minutes is a good amount of time for the meeting conclusion. And what do you do in the meeting conclusion? Well, if it's a decision meeting, you make 5 minutes of time available to make sure that that decision is actually made, and discussion time is available to have that discussion. If you assigned action items, then you make sure this 5 minutes is available to review the action items so that people know what it is they have to do. So now after listening to all these tips, you might be thinking to yourself, well, Chris, this is fine and dandy for the meetings that I run or I facilitate, but what about all the other meetings that I go to in my workplace that I don't run and I can't make these things happen? Well, in that case, just send your colleagues that run those meetings, send them this video. Their meetings will improve if they follow these tips. But Chris, what about if they won't listen to me or they won't watch this? Well, in that case, their meeting's gonna be boring, and you should watch my video right here about how to stay awake in boring meetings. As usual, I won't say goodbye because I'm gonna see you in this video.